Your ancient future is now. Welcome to Kim West.
Welcome back to Harbaugh. With a career spanning 5 decades, Bill Cosby's an American icon. I'm honored to welcome him here to Harbaugh, along with Dr. Alvin Poussaint, professor of psychiatry at Boston's Judge Baker Children's Center and the Harvard Medical School. They're authors both of the New York Times bestseller, Come On, People, On the Path from Victims to Victors. Gentlemen, Mr. Cosby, Dr.
Hometown.
Philly guy.
Hometown.
North Philly.
Chris.
Toughest neighborhood in the city.
LaSalle High School.
Central High, where you had to have an IQ very high to go there.
And you went nowhere.
That's right. I went to New York City, toughest place in town for schools.
I remember, Mr. Cosby, you would tell me how you'd tell your daughters and your son that you'd go back to the old neighborhood, and they didn't believe you were from there.
It was one of the funny. I'm driving, and I go down to 10th and Parish, and there's the Richard Allen Projects. And I pull in, and I say, this is where your Uncle Russell, Uncle Bob, this is where we live. And they started yelling. They were 7, 8, 9, stuff like, you just brought us down here to make us feel bad. You're telling us that we want to get out of here. Then I took them down to Mary Channing Worcester, my elementary school, to tell them about the beautiful and wonderful Mary B. Fortune. And the school is all crumbly and just gone.
Yeah.
You're not old enough yet to have that happen to your life. LaSalle will always be.
Yeah, but the 15th and Hunting Park, I know that neighborhood too, where I grew up. Let me ask you this about that neighborhood, the tough inner city. Every major city's got a poor neighborhood, usually black, sometimes blighted by crime, and certainly poverty. Mm-hmm. And we've got this recession, and we have an African-American president. What's it like, do you think, growing up, a 15-year-old right now like that, as opposed to when you grew up? Is it different with a black president?
You want me?
Well, it's different. I mean, to have a black president is different, and I think it's inspirational to all of these young people. But I don't think it's going to change their day-to-day life. If they're living in poverty right now, they may be living in more poverty because of the economic downturn. They're still going to have the issues with crime, with drugs, with not having enough money for clothes and food, that this is going to get worse in the short term. But I think they're inspired to want to do better, and maybe because President Obama is talking about personal responsibility and caring for your children and being a good parent, that maybe some of them, in fact, might achieve more. But I think it's going to be difficult with all the other hardships. Already the crime rate is going up.
Because of the recession.
Because of the recession.
Bill, I was there that morning in October where you know that old neighborhood, Progress Plaza, North Philly, up above Temple. Tough neighborhood. Hasn't changed much. In fact, it's worse than it was 40 years ago. These people, 15,000 people get up at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, mostly African-American, but a mixed crowd. When President Obama, the candidate, said, I'm going to build a country where people, the leaders, unite us, they don't divide us. Nobody said bigger piece of the pie, a better deal, more welfare jobs. Right. He just said, unite us, not divide. Those people were crying with hope. Can he deliver? He delivers.
But it's not his delivery. That's not his delivery. It's our delivery. It's that rising up, the phoenix. It really is on all of us. Let me give you an example. A young man said yesterday at Teachers College, there's a young fellow, John Bartram High School. So the kid says, my mother has 2 jobs, my father has 2 jobs, and the cops came into my house and turned it upside down looking for a gun. What the blank am I supposed to do? And so I looked at the teacher and I said, okay, what was your answer? And he said, well, the kid is just saying how things are against him. I said, but what did you say to him? And the fellow said, well, he really didn't say it to me. He said it to my friend. I said, but you didn't say that. When our children confront us and they're angry and they sound angry, they're really asking a question. Point blank, our children are trying to tell us something and we're not listening. We've got to listen to them and we have to answer them. Now, many people don't think they have an answer. They hear the anger and they back off. We've got to be able to tell our children and make them feel good about the fight.
Yeah.
The fight without necessarily the answer. Now, Chris, we ought to be able to do that. I'm not an atheist. I'm not an agnostic. But if you can believe the story of Jesus and that Jesus is coming back, and you really haven't seen Jesus walking around, then why can't you believe that right here and now, I'm a school teacher, and I'm telling you, son, let's sit down, let's try and do these problems, the math, the science, whatever, let's try, because you're going to become somebody and you have something up here.
Well, that's the question, Bill. A kid today at 15, every kid, black kid, white kid, whatever background, knows that we have Barack Obama as our president. Every kid knows it because there's TV medium and everything else. They know.
Right.
Does that change their sense of victimhood to, I can win?
I think it does a little bit, sure, because he won. If Obama thought of himself and wallowed in being a victim as a black man...
He never does it.
I know, and he would never be president of the United States if he did that. He never would have run for the nomination and then for the presidency if he saw himself.
In fact, he leans
as a
over
victim.
backwards not to be antagonistic because he doesn't want to be a, quote, angry black man. He's always careful about that.
Right.
But
He took the victor's attitude and he went for it.
But we need
that's what we have to have all our young people do.
We need teachers who just can think to give the philosophy. A lot of kids in the neighborhood don't get any kind of ancestral, cultural history until they get to college.
Meaning?
Meaning that they don't know who they are until, if they're fortunate enough that the parents give it to them in the home. It's not in the school.
Yeah.
And then if it isn't in the home, if a black kid walks up to another black kid who's studying and says, you're acting white.
Yeah.
If that kid does not have his or her ancestral intelligence, education in her and family, she is going...
Okay, doctor, I keep thinking about this. I keep thinking about a kid in grade school. They take him to Independence Hall. They show him where all these white guys 250 years ago, built a country based on democracy, human rights, the Bill of Rights. Good stuff. But it never meant anything to those black kids because they were all white guys. Now, do they have in their heads the seed of an idea? Only that kind of a government could lead to a guy named Barack Obama being head of a Western country like is happening right now. Do they see the connection of that history?
Well, I don't know if they see the connection of that white history.
That's what I'm asking.
With Obama, necessarily, but they see the history probably more of the civil rights movement and the struggle for freedom in the United States, connected with Martin Luther King and all the other.
Do they connect King with Obama?
Oh, absolutely.
But even
and they
before
did during the last holiday season.
But even before
Martin Luther King's birthday and the inauguration.
Before then, before Dr. King, there were Africans who were freed from their slavery, who wanted to
Frederick
study.
Douglass,
Phyllis Wheatley. I mean, they got it.
Yeah.
It was there. And we had, as black people, our own stores. We had our own town. Tulsa was bombed because racist white people did not like the fact that the black people had a town and they were doing well with it and enjoying. And so Tulsa, for a long time, was the only American place in the United States of America.
I grew up a lot of those African-American leaders. Judge Raymond Pace Alexander, Judge Hasty, Bill Gray. They came from those families that had gotten ahead and established that hope.
Hotep. You've just been listening to an excerpt of an interview with Dr. Bill Cosby and Dr. Alan Passant, talking with Chris Matthews of Hardball on MSNBC. If you like this entire interview, email me at djehuti.ausar@gmail.com and I'll send you out the entire interview. And on that note, Anouk djehuti.ausar. You're now tuned in to Kim West. Shimhotep.